In my last few blogs, I've endeavored to tweak your appreciation of the world, not as you want it to be, but as it actually works. Well, today, I'm going to take this concept one step further by having you consider one simple question. How real is reality? Now, I know we've all seen sci-fi flicks like The Matrix that posit the theory that we're living in a simulation of reality. And I hate to break it to you, but there are a number of scientists who tend to agree with this concept. But that's not what I'm here to explore today. Nor am I tilting at the technological windmill that revolves around a multidimensional multiverse that exists alongside ours and occasionally breaks through to our reality. Who knows? Maybe I'll tackle that Megillah in a later blog. What I'm here to expose today doesn't have one iota of science fiction at its core. Like it or not, each and every one of us is a prisoner to our concept of reality due to the fact that everything we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is an amalgam of the world that has been acquired, processed, filtered, and only then perceived by you and I. Now don't run off thinking I've lost my mind, because during the next few minutes I intend to explain how every human being on the planet accesses reality, as well as pointing out a few of the speed bumps along the way. Unless you're deaf and blind, then 90% of what you perceive of the world is taken in through sight and sound. It's just the way we're built. Now ask yourself this: how much of what's going on around you at this very moment do you really perceive? Don't answer that question yet, because if you do, odds are you'll be dead wrong. Allow me to explain. To do that, I'm going to need the help of a couple of my four-legged friends. If you've ever owned a dog, you soon discover that Fido hears things that you can't. Now, I'm not just talking about the canine ability to hear sounds at great distances. For instance, you can buy a dog whistle at any pet store that'll bring your pooch running that you can't hear at all. That's because the whistle is too high for humans to perceive. Score one for the animal kingdom. Cats are also attuned to hear high-pitched sounds associated with their prey. Plus, they can see in the dark, while we humans stumble around blindly looking to activate the flashlight app on our smartphones. Animal 2, people 0. Heck, even the speed of the world around us is relative. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to swat a fly? That's because a housefly sees the world very differently than you and I do. And I'm not just talking about their funky compound eyes. Flies literally live in a supercharged reality that makes humans seem to be running in slow motion. The reason I point this out is to get you to understand that everything in our world is subjective. Newsflash, your eyes don't really see, at least not the way you think they do. Most people believe their eyes work like a camera. I mean, light passes through the pupil before hitting the retina to produce an image much the same way a Nikon takes a picture, right? You couldn't be more wrong. In fact, if your eyes worked like a camera, you'd perceive the world upside down. I hate to break it to you, but that's actually how your visual cortex sees the world. The only reason we don't trip over everything around us and stick forks in our eyes when we eat is because our brain flips the image right side up. If you don't believe me, let me point out that there have been several experiments conducted at major universities where subjects were given a set of goggles that simply flipped the world upside down. As soon as this happens, the subjects lose all sense of coordination. Things are so bad that each is assigned an escort to help them navigate and feed themselves until the brain compensates for the anomaly. What science discovered is that after a week or so, the subjects no longer trip over their feet or spill beverages all over themselves. In short, their brains adapt to the new normal, and aside from the funky spectacles, their behavior returns to normal. At least it does until they take the glasses off. Which, you got it, flips the world on its head once more, requiring another week or two to reset. Weird or what? I hate to break it to you, but that's not the half of it. Here's another weird fact that virtually all of us take for granted. You see, when it comes to sight and sound, the brain actually filters out much of what goes on around us. That's right, there's a lot more happening than meets the eye and ear. Say what? Allow me to point out the ugly truth. If your brain didn't selectively figure out the busy world around you, you'd never be able to function. If you're forced to deal with everything going on, your world would quickly devolve into an LSD-like state of sensory overload that would either have you bouncing off the walls or hiding under your bed to turn off all the noise. What's worse is it doesn't take a hit of acid to mess with your sense of reality. All it takes is a sudden shock to the system. Perhaps you were once involved in an auto accident that caused the world around you to seem as though it moved in slow motion. This is just one example of altered reality. Then there are the sudden shocks, diseases, and brain disorders that can mess with your senses. For instance, people afflicted with prosopagnosia can't remember faces. And I'm not talking about being unable to remember what your best friend looks like either. I'm talking about mistaking your wife for a feather duster. Foreign accent syndrome causes some people to start talking in a thick foreign accent. Sacre bleu! Alien hand syndrome causes one limb to act as though it has a mind of its own, even to the point of restraining the other hand that may have been reaching for a garment in the closet. Needless to say, there are a myriad of physical conditions that can suddenly and without warning manifest themselves to alter your view of reality. On top of that, since our senses are so limited in scope due to the constraints of evolution, there are lots of things going on around us that we can't conceive. I mean, have you ever tried to see cell phone signals wafting through the air, or hear colors as some synesthetes do? Have you ever wondered what a daffodil looks like to a bumblebee that can see ultraviolet light? Face it, there is no spoon. How real is reality? Well, let me know with your comments. If you thought this video was thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.